What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Francisco, and today I want to talk to you about the BEACN mic and the BEACN Mix CREAT, both individually and as a combo. Let's get started. And before I forget, I do want to let you know, for the sake of full disclosure and full transparency, BEACN did send me both of these products for free for the purposes of this review. So let's get right into the BEACN microphone itself. This is a dynamic USB microphone. It is a full metal build. It is a top quality build of a product. This thing is built to last. It's going to take you quite a bit of effort to intentionally try to break this thing. I ask that you don't try to do that. It's got a couple awesome quality of life features that I'm a huge fan of. Number one, I appreciate organization and order in this chaotic world that we live in. So they included a really awesome cable management clip right here on the microphone. You would potentially have two cables. At minimum, you have to have one coming out the back of the mic, all right? You got one cable right here, which is the aux cord extension cable that they include in the package as well, which is something I'm a big fan of, by the way. Thank y'all for including that. And the other cable is the USB-C cable that obviously powers the microphone and handles all the data transmission, etc. The other quality of life feature I'm a big fan of so far is the way that this microphone is mounted onto the boom arm of your choosing. Typically, you have to take the entire microphone and rotate and screw the whole thing on, and God forbid, you tighten it up and realize that it's not in the position that you want it to be in. You have to unscrew the whole thing and play around and do all this and that, and it just gets a little annoying. What BEACN did here is basically say, hey, this bottom portion of the yoke stand right here is the only thing that you need to screw and actuate to be able to get it onto the boom arm of your choosing. The top part right here is awesome because for here, if you just want to change the angle of the microphone without having to unscrew the microphone itself, you can simply rotate that piece right there and call it a day while it is still secured to the boom arm of your choosing. And I think that's a really smart thing and a really smart design element that they included. It's nothing huge, it's nothing major, but I think a lot of the little things that this microphone and these products get right make a big difference on the impressions that it leaves on somebody like me or yourself. Now, you're not buying a microphone for the cable management clips. You're not buying a microphone for how easy it is to mount to a boom arm of your choice. You're buying a microphone because of how it potentially will sound for you. And I'll tell you this, being that this is a dynamic microphone, obviously it's an excellent choice to have in a streamer or content creator's setup where your room maybe isn't necessarily treated appropriately to handle audio. For example, I'm in a very small room. My walls are somewhat decorated. I have a couple of Elgato's wave panels behind me right here, but I wouldn't qualify my room as treated. So easily, if I'm not careful, I can get a lot of reverb and echo going into my microphone and into my audio. Dynamic microphones help eliminate a good bit of that because dynamic microphones do an excellent job of projecting noise from around the microphone and from behind it as well, focusing on capturing what is in front of the microphone itself instead. And out of the box, I'll tell you this definitely sounds like a dynamic broadcast microphone because it definitely sounds like you are on a radio show. It's very boomy, it's very bassy right out of the box. I personally am a fan of, this broadcast bassy boomy sound, but out of the box, this one is a little bit too much. But the good news is that with the BEACN app, you're able to equalize it yourself. Now, I could dive into the BEACN app a whole lot here, and I will briefly in this video, but I'm going to make several other videos based off of these two products because there is just that much to talk about. But I'll tell you this, when it comes to equalizing this microphone, you're going to have to put in a little bit of work, but BEACN makes it super easy. BEACN has a guide built into the BEACN app that you click a little button on there and it does the same exact thing where it tells you from this frequency to that frequency, you are affecting the sub bass of your voice. From this frequency to that frequency, you're going to affect how much of a broadcast sound your voice has when you're using the microphone. Because they're able to incorporate that, equalizing this microphone is not difficult in the sense that it's difficult because you don't understand what you're doing. It's just a little bit more tedious because it requires some work on the user's end to get the result that they want to get. But once you've gotten the microphone equalized to your liking, which right now, I wouldn't consider this being the top perfect EQ that I'm looking for. We're approaching it. I feel like this microphone sounds pretty damn good. So EQ is not all of it though. You actually get a whole lot more control with the BEACN mic thanks to the BEACN app software. Now, of course, again, you get the EQ. You're going to get things like a de-esser, an exciter, compression, expanders, noise suppression, and there's a couple of different types of noise suppression available as well, and a whole lot of other tools to use to really control how your microphone sounds and how it behaves according to your voice and your unique setup and environment that you are recording in. which is fantastic. And I think that because of the software and the quality of the mic on its own, really, you can get some amazing results. And if you don't believe me, I streamed with this microphone and this setup when I first got it. I was playing some Elden Ring with some, for some regular viewers of mine on my YouTube streams. And I was getting complimented on how good the microphone sounded. I was shocked that your mic sounds so great. Like, is that the BEACN mic? Yeah, it is. This is the BEACN mic, dude. This is the one. There is a little bit of EQ work involved. Not a whole lot, surprisingly enough, but there's a good little bit. Not a good little bit. There is a little bit. Mic audio is smooth, or maybe it's your voice, and game audio is perfect. Not too loud, not too quiet. Beautiful. And at that point, it was with minimal EQ work. So again, out of the box and with some work, this microphone can sound really good. Just depends on what you're going for. Let's talk about the BEACN Mix Create, because I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably my favorite piece of hardware that I now have in my setup. The best way I can describe the BEACN Mix Create to anybody out there, especially if you've used Elgato's software and hardware and their whole ecosystem, is this. The BEACN Mix Create is the physical embodiment of Elgato's wavelength software. Now, here's what I mean. The BEACN Mix Create is roughly a little bit larger than Elgato's standard Stream Deck. It has 4 knobs on it and a series of different buttons that give you very good control, very precise, finite total control over your audio that you are receiving in your personal mix and the audio your audience is getting via their audience mix, okay? One of the things that I did not enjoy about using Stream Deck and Wavelink is that when it came to adjusting volume levels for all of my audio inputs, I had to click a button. The problem that I have with clicking a button is that you have to assign the step that that button press is. For example, one button click would be a drop in 5% of volume or an increase of 5% in volume. And there's not a whole lot of control. Maybe I don't want to drop to 5% down, or maybe I don't want to go up by 5%. Maybe I just want to go up by 1% or 2%, but you can't do that. With the BEACN Mix Create, because it has 4 knobs to control 4 different audio sources, you're able to fine tune your volume levels for both yourself on a personal mix and your audience via the audio mix. And not only that, there is a 5-inch LCD screen on the BEACN Mix Create that tells you exactly numerically what your volume levels are at, and you also get a visual representation in a meter for how high or how low your levels are. You're not only limited to 4 inputs or 4 audio sources, you're able to add in, I believe, up to 8, because there's a button to scroll to the next page to any other sources that you've added. And you're able to maintain control for all sorts of different volume levels for all sorts of different applications and audio inputs, etc. It has a button that allows you to switch on the fly between personal and audience mixes and adjust volume levels for each one accordingly. Not only that, but you also have separate mute buttons. So there's actually 2 mute buttons. If you press in the dial, that's one function of mute, and there's a button below each dial that also acts as a mute button as well. The cool thing with this is that you can set how the mute behaves depending on which button you press. So for now, on my setup, if I were to press the dial under the mic portion of the BEACN Mix Create and the app, if I push the dial in, it mutes the mic for both personal and audience mixes. If I push the button below the knob under mic, it only mutes it for my audience and anybody else on personal. So that means if I am on Discord chatting with my friends while we're playing Modern Warfare 2, I can mute my mic to the entire audience watching my streams or my videos, but my teammates and my pals on Discord would still hear me. I absolutely adore this piece of hardware. It's slightly larger than the standard Stream Deck. Again, it doesn't take up that much more space, and it gives you a very good level of control. The best level of control I've seen when it comes to controlling your audio levels across all inputs on your streams, on your videos, etc. I had some complaints where that my voice was much louder than my game. I didn't have to sit there and press a button and finagle through different folders to get to it. I just turned one dial a little bit to the right and I was good to go. And I absolutely adore this thing. It's made of plastic. I do feel that if you drop this accidentally, you might crack it, you might break it. Hopefully you're not putting yourself in a situation where that would happen. The only thing missing from the BEACN Mix Create would have been 3.5mm port. That's it. I understand why it's connected to the microphone, because the microphone has the onboard DSP that handles all the audio processing. If it would have been also on the BEACN Mix Create, that would have been fantastic. And you're thinking, why would you want that on the BEACN Mix Create if you're going to be using the BEACN mic? Maybe you don't want to use the BEACN mic. And maybe now you're asking yourself, well, Francisco or Frank, whatever you want to call me, can you use an XLR microphone or a different microphone and still use the BEACN Mix Create? I'm very glad you asked. And the answer is a resounding yes. Yes, you can use a different microphone with this setup. You are not limited to the BEACN mic. So for those of us who already have an XLR microphone and don't necessarily need the microphone that BEACN has to offer, but we still want to take advantage of the BEACN Mix Create and the BEACN app and all of its power and audio routing options, you can still use your XLR microphone. Right now, I'm using the Rode Procaster via Elgato's Wave XLR while having the BEACN app and the BEACN Mix Create handle all of my audio processing and routing and the microphone itself. In the event that you want to use your own XLR microphone or a different microphone, if the BEACN Mix Create had its own audio connection to 3.5mm port, I think that would have been like, this would have made it perfect. This would have made the BEACN Mix Create perfect, but it's not a deal breaker because there are other solutions out there to still get audio through the BEACN Mix Create and the BEACN app while using your own XLR microphone. Now let's talk about the BEACN app and the software itself. At first, I had a lot of issues with the application. It would constantly crash. Not only would it constantly crash, but it would crash and delete my profiles and all of my EQ settings and everything else that I had set for this whole setup. And I had to start from scratch every single time that I would launch the app. I ended up solving this problem because I suspected, after doing the obvious things like unplugging it and replugging it back in, blah, 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 I found that the problem I was having, it's not a one size fits all thing here, but for me, it was that I was overloading my USB buses with too many devices that consumed too much power and potentially bandwidth. So I unplugged everything, and by some educated guesses and some luck, I kind of changed up what I had plugged where. And when I did that, it's been working perfectly fine ever since then. I say perfectly, that's not the entire truth. Only issue I had after that were two things. I had profiles that were still not being saved. All right. And upon some research, I found a solution thanks to a Redditor from BEACN that was on Reddit, posted this probably about a year ago, where basically you have to go into your, BEACN files and rename your profile file folders by adding _old to each of them and then running the app again and letting it create new ones. And supposedly that would solve the issue. Well, it did, but every now and then it would still kind of reset my stuff. So I just thought, hey, let me delete the ones I renamed and see what happens. So I deleted the folders that I renamed and left the new folders that the program automatically created alone. And ever since then, I've not had this issue whatsoever. Now, the only issue that I had after that, every time I started the computer back up again, if I put it to sleep or if I turned it off, or if I closed the app out altogether, I had to unclick the BEACN mic and my line in for the hardware, which the line in is what I use to handle my PS5 audio, and re-click them both to get basically to reactivate them so that the sound would actually go through the application itself and into, whatever software I'm using to record. Yesterday, the app updated to the newer software and I have not had to do a damn thing since. I leave the BEACN mic clicked, I leave my line in clicked, and I close the app out. I've shut the computer down. I've restarted it. I've put it to sleep and restarted it. And it works right from the get-go as soon as the application opens. Do I recommend any one of these two products individually? And do I recommend them both as a combo? Individually speaking, the BEACN mic is a fantastic microphone. I think the mic sounds pretty good right out of the box if you like a very bassy and broadcasting sound to your voice. If you do not like that, thankfully, the app now is able to give you a very good level of stable control over what your audio will sound like, especially your voice and your microphone. So yes, I do recommend the microphone on its own. Would I recommend the BEACN Mix Create on its own? 1,000 bajillion, quadrillion, quintillion % yes. I, on every single day that ends in Y, will recommend the BEACN Mix Create to any content creator out there that is looking to have tangible visual control over the different volume levels for all your audio imports and all your audio sources. I said imports, inputs. You know what I mean. I don't believe in clicking buttons to control volume. I believe in seeing what I'm doing and in using a dial or a slider to control volume. And this product does that perfectly. For a new content creator or someone looking to upgrade their gear, upgrade their setup, would I recommend them both together? I would. But there's a catch and a caveat. It's going to cost you almost $500 to get both of these going together. But if you have the $500 and you like what you're hearing and what you're seeing right now so far, then yes, I would recommend both the BEACN mic and the Mix Create as a combo for your content creation and your audio management, if you will. The thing about these two products, they don't do any one huge major thing great, but all the little things they're nailing them. Trial and error, a couple of, hiccups and bumps along the road, of course, but they're getting them, dude, and they're getting them right. And it's very exciting because I don't see myself going back to the Elgato ecosystem in regards to managing my audio. I'm full transparency. I might go and stick with my XLR microphone just because I love XLR microphones. But if I didn't have an XLR microphone as an option and I had to stick with USB and I had the ability and the means to get this microphone, I wouldn't stop myself from doing it. And I wouldn't stop you either. But I'm telling you, if you're gonna get one of these two products, the BEACN Mix CREAT it's a must-have, I think, in my opinion. You just gotta have it. This thing is just so damn good. I hope you all found the video helpful. This is a long one, and this was me trying to keep it short and condensed because, again, there's still so much more to talk about here that I'm going to be doing separate videos because the app is its own tutorial on its own. Like, I can't cram a tutorial on the app into the review of these two products because it would take a while. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you see when those videos go up. Until next time, ladies and gents, thank you all very much for everything. It's been a wonderful year. We got a little bit about a month and a half before we close out 2022. Trying to hit 6K subs. I'm at 5,509 at the moment. It would be greatly appreciated. Like it, subscribe to it, comment it, engage it, share it, tell your friends, and above all else, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Peace out.